I truly believe that every experience is a gift for us, and sometimes it's just wrapped in the most hideous paper you have ever seen in your life. And I do believe there are opportunities for learning, but that doesn't mean that you avoid or you think every experience must immediately be the gift. You may not see the gift for decades. You may be on a completely different relationship. You may be on a different trajectory with your career path. You may have thrown away career in order to line up with what matters most to you in however you create your sustainability in the world. You may never see the gift until you're close to taking your last breaths. And a lot of people do that. And I just don't want that for you. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Intuition, Your Success Compass. This is Vicky Baird. This episode, we are going to talk about intuition, we're going to talk about mindset, and then the inner peace that comes from the combination of those two. If you're listening, you may pick up on the fact that there's a little bit of a lisp going on, and that's because I was fortunate enough to have dental surgery last week. And I now have an appliance that is sitting and covering the roof of my mouth a little bit. And I am still not used to it, but you know what? The show's got to go on. And there are some words that will crack me up when I try to say them. And I figured I'd just put it out there. You do not need to adjust your sound quality or anything. This is the way it's going to be for a couple months. So I'm learning to accept it. I'm only about 3 days in, and it's been a challenge. And it's made me reflect a little bit on the work that I'm doing. I'm not sure why, except that when we go through these experiences and when you have some downtime because you couldn't talk for a day or so, and that might be a gift from other people for other people. And you just start to reflect, right? And one of the other things that I was reflecting on was how I missed being in my office with people. I missed connecting in that way and hugging them after a session if they wanted one. I didn't make everybody hug me. And when I was in my office in person, I often sat in this chair that I'm sitting in now. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to take it back to that time because this message of intuition and wisdom and the combination is just so close. It's why I'm here. It's to help people, help you recognize that you have that capability. First, the role was for me to figure it out because every soul journey that we have and every purpose that we provide in the world is for us to recognize and to understand, and then we share it, right? So me recognizing intuition was a big thing, and knowing that there's also mindset that's so important that I didn't quite get for the longest time. And I'll speak more on that later. And I wanted to just take it back to where I used to have conversations with people, and I figured we can recreate that now. Nobody needs to be lectured at, nobody needs to be talked to like, here I am, the expert on intuition, and there you are, the one listening. We all have a level of understanding and knowing. I'm just here to kind of shake you up a little bit so that you understand it too. And I'm like, I want to get back to that. Or let's move forward, but bring from behind that kind of casual, let's have a conversation and learn and expand without having it feel like it's a class or a lecture or anything like that. And as I have been more and more leaning into the idea of mindset and wisdom and the combination that's so powerful there, I am feeling like the more comfortable we can be with ourselves, the more that you like yourself, the more your intuition's going to work, and the quieter that judge or that critic is going to be in your brain. And this has been the benefit, truthfully, of going through the positive intelligence program and then becoming a coach. It just reinforced everything I had already learned about neuropathway work and how vitally important it is as a human to embrace our soul language and as a soul to embrace the humanness. There's so much denigration about being a human and about, oh, my brain just doesn't work, or I have this condition, or I have that condition, or my body doesn't listen. And I just feel like the more that we appreciate this, the calmer we're going to be and the more we're going to love life. So I decided to relax it down a little bit, come on here, have a conversation with you, say, how are you doing? And encourage you to get comfortable with yourself. Maybe you make a cup of tea or just settle in. Maybe we're going for a walk together. That would be lovely. It's a gorgeous fall day here, a little brisk, but gorgeous. And let's take the next 30 minutes to talk about this. And you can let me know your experiences, your feedback, and if you like this new direction that I'm taking with the podcast, because I like being the expert on intuition. I'm not going to lie there. I absolutely love it. And I also feel like there's so much that we learn from each other. And every day I do a session with somebody, I learn a little bit more about myself or about them. And I just want to relax it a little bit. So, when we're understanding our intuitive skill set, we have to consider all of the chatter that is in our physical brain. Sometimes it looks like people have debris in there, or someone I was working with the other day looked like tumbleweed. And it's just taking up space. And it's like having a bunch of files on your computer that is just slowing it down and they're not really effective, and it gets in the way of hearing intuitive messages because we have a physical brain. We have two physical brains. We have the left, we have the right. And the right happens to be so wired with intuition and with creativity and focused action, joyfulness. And the left has its role. It keeps us alive. Thank you very much. It can create a plan, it can follow a recipe, and it can be a worrier, and it can be a storyteller, and it can be the thing that really creates chaos in our lives. So, as we go through this, I would love for you to think of it that way, that as I'm strengthening my intuition, my gut knowing, and my downloads from spirit, I'm working in concert with my right brain. I am working with the part of me that can see a movie for my life, or that can write and communicate from my guides, or that can see the potential in a job position. It shows up in so many different ways. And trusting our intuition is something we hear a lot. It doesn't work unless you have an appreciation for your brain and for the wiring that you came in with, the wiring that you got from your parents, from the teachers, from society, and then understanding that all of our experiences shape us. And if you really want to have success in your life, by determining what success means for you, that's not up for me, even as a coach, to determine. When someone comes to me, I say, okay, what do you see for your life? What would you like to have? And then help you get there. And sometimes it changes along the way, and we get to discover the new vision together. And I love that. So when you're combining your wisdom, that is your intuition, with your mindset, which takes freaking work, it takes work. The wiring that gets put in there by, I think, well meaning people and I think even a well-meaning world, it's just that we all have our own perceptions and agendas and trajectories. It gets a little convoluted in there sometimes. Like when you're combining all of that together, it's a lot of work and it takes some unraveling. It takes learning and getting to know yourself a little bit more and take that effort to do it. And it's only recently, honestly, that I have found the words to describe what it is I love so much about being human and being intuitive. It's that they have to work together. And when they work together, it's brilliant. And we get to love who we are, be amazing beings, and kick butt and be successful and be playful. We get to be our whole selves. And that's what I'm encouraging in you getting to know both. And that's why I took the positive intelligence program and am now doing the 6-week program, although you get an extra week. Don't tell anybody I said that, okay? Because I like to throw that in there as a surprise and a bonus. And combining all of that with intuition because they're both a skill set that we vitally need in this world. If we are going to ever get along to the capacity that we are capable of, we have to be using all of it because data and logic and external advice are important, but being able to discern who you are, how you're wired, and what you love is even more vital. Okay. So, as I talk about a positive mindset. I am not talking about being fake. I am not talking about being blindly optimistic. I'm not even talking about reframing challenges as always being opportunities and gifts. They are. I truly believe, but this doesn't have to be your belief. I truly believe that every experience is a gift for us, and sometimes it's just wrapped in the most hideous paper you have ever seen in your life. And I do believe there are opportunities for learning, but that doesn't mean that you avoid or you think every opportunity, I'm sorry, every experience must immediately be the gift. You may not see the gift for decades. You may be on a completely different relationship. You may be on a different trajectory with your career path. You may have thrown away career in order to line up with what matters most to you in however you create your sustainability in the world. You may never see the gift until you're close to taking your last breaths. And a lot of people do that, and I just don't want that for you. I want you for I want you to be able to know yourself so well that you can see what the gift or the opportunity is in a shorter time frame, but I don't want you to fake it. I don't want you to say, "Oh yeah, that horrible experience I went through was wonderful because it made me grow and I expanded exponentially." That's probably the truth. But if you don't acknowledge in the moment that there's frustration or anger or misunderstanding or sadness or grief, there's also a missed opportunity in that. So when I say a positive mindset or a supportive mindset, or heck, just turn it up a little bit, raise the frequency a little bit mindset, please hear me that I am not asking you to fake it till you make it. I don't believe in that. Oh my goodness. No pain, no gain. What a dumb expression. What a dumb expression. Sorry to whoever came up with that. I feel like that was very judgmental. But I'm asking for you to consider the fact that all of this can be connected in a way that actually has you working less hard at being who you are. I had someone who's going through the program, going through the program. But yes, it is a program. Going through my mindset breakthrough program and realizing that She's just learning who she is at her age. And I think that's so fabulous because, again, a lot of people don't do this and they croak or they come up to the last few weeks or months of their life and realize that they better do some work. I've had this experience with some friends, unfortunately. They didn't want to hear about any of this. And then once the facing of the fact that they were passing was true, then they wanted to ask questions and delve into who they were and learn what was important to them. And I'll never say it's too late. It's never too late. Even if you croak and never do that, I promise you, in your non physical, you'll be doing some review. You'll get to cover it. You'll get it next lifetime. Don't worry about it. But wouldn't it be lovely if you were able to tap into a mindset that was supportive, that was inclusive of all the information, and that was able to play a role in you having a joyful experience and actually be so magically invested in the outcome and in having your success be whatever it is for you. So, cultivating a supportive mindset is not easy. It's especially difficult in times where we get inundated with all the negative and the judgment that other people are having. I mean, my goodness, I was just scrolling. Yes, I was. And there were so many comments. And this is not a new thing, but I guess it still boggles my mind when this happens. There are so many comments who don't even know these people posting saying, well, you should do this, you should do that. And, why are those kids messy? Kids deserve to be messy. They deserve to experience life in a tactile way. We should get messy. You should see me when I came home from the horse sanctuary yesterday. I didn't realize how much of it I had worn, but it feels good to get invested in something, to really get involved in it. And that took a direction I didn't intend to go, but welcome to my brain. But having an in-depth get in there, get messy with life experience, it brings more joy. It helps you to feel like you're actually there. And when we're judging others, we're not having enough time or mental space or heart space to even consider what we might want in our own life. And yes, I know a lot of people do that. They spend more time projecting their crap and they spend more time judging other people. Not you, because none of you who listen to this podcast would ever do that, would you? But they spend so much time doing that that they're missing out on the real joy of life. And I don't want that for you. So there's an importance to inner peace and a quiet mind. And those things happen when we focus both on wisdom and mindset. So on your soul and your brain, you have both, and they operate in different frequencies. So if you embrace both, it just stands to reason that life gets to be a little bit easier. Inner peace doesn't come from only, I suppose it could, sitting on a mountainside and being in meditation. I actually feel like the more we live, the more we experience things, the more inner peace we have. I just know our computer likes it, all of the investment in it. And inner peace comes from working through and being willing to ask yourself, do I like that? Do I not like that? Does this bring me joy? Does it not bring me joy? And a quiet mind allows the intuitive messages to emerge clearly, whether that's through a feeling, whether that's through a knowing, whether that's through actually hearing some words. And I can hear you now. That's great for you, Vicky, but that's not great for me because my brain never shuts up. Well, I had one of those brains. I absolutely had one of those brains that was the ultimate multitasker in that I would worry about things that hadn't come to be. I would worry about what was right in front of me and I would be processing what was already lived experience. So it's it's one of my abilities to be able to process on multi levels at all at once and be aware of all the levels, but that was also a detriment to me. And I'm like, I gotta shut down one of these channels or I'm never gonna make it. And I chose to shut down the channel that worries about things that aren't to be yet because I didn't have any control over those. And that took so much work. I'm not going to lie to you and sit here and say, oh, it's easy. I just flipped a switch. I did these little practices. No, no. I had true battles with myself at times and would have to say, you don't know that, Vicky. You don't know that for sure. And I would have to argue with my intuitive sense that I would have a feeling about something, but I didn't have all the data, and I had to wait for that data to show up. So here's what I'm talking about in the mixture and the beautiful dance that can be your wisdom and your mindset. With a supportive mindset, I'm able to now say, that's very creative, and I understand where you're going with that, left brain, because you want to be prepared. You want to work all the scenarios. You want to have all the conversations done, but that's not going to serve me. And I know it to be a waste of my energy and it raises my blood pressure. And I have excellent blood pressure. So we don't want to go there. So, all that stress that we create for ourselves for things that very rarely come to be. And just think of the times where you let your head wander and it went on to tell a story about how that person was going to be or what was going to happen, and then it didn't come to be. You can't get that time back. Yes, we're going to have other lifetimes, but you can't get that time back that you just spent worrying and lamenting about all of that stuff. It does take effort for you to recognize when that comes up to close it down. So what can you do? You can do what's called a PQ rep, positive quotient. Rub your fingers together, try to find that middle toe, do a Kegel, take a breath. Oh, what did somebody tell me today? Oh, she was tapping her knee. That's her new one. She's tapping, 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 which is such a brilliant thing anyway, because tapping is something that can help calm us. So find your PQ rep, whatever that is, whatever feels nice to you. I very much am like hands on the thighs rubbing kind of thing, especially after leg day. It feels really good. But find your PQ rep, whatever that is. If you're a very visual person, you may want to pick up, like, try it right now if you're watching this. Find one of the colors in my shirt and just focus on that. And yeah, we're creating a bit of a clash with the chair, but roll with it and focus in on that for 10 seconds. Okay. If you're listening to this, focus in on how my S's sound a little weird. Focus in on the breeze and how that feels on your face right now. You only need 10 seconds for your brain to switch over to your intuitive side, to the right side, to the sage, to the soul, whatever you call it. It's all the same thing. So, what will happen when you do that is you will start to minimize the habit of going to telling the story. And you will also decrease that mental clutter that I was talking about before, the tumbleweeds that happen to be in there. And that clears a path to intuition, to a more succinct way of living so that you don't have to worry so much. Well, you don't have to ever worry, but that I'm never going to tell a parent somebody not to worry. I just think it's part of being human and what a beautiful thing to care about somebody enough that you worry about them for 10 seconds and then move on because you're not helping them either if you're only sitting in the worry of things. But we'll talk about process of that later in another episode. So don't underestimate the small micro movements matter. The small steps that you'll take. No one becomes self aware or becomes of quiet mind and a calm mind all at once. It's through these individual times. And each time you catch yourself, that may be 50 times in an hour. It may very well be. And then I hope you're congratulating yourselves for putting in that work. And then, you know, go read a book, do something that doesn't involve a lot of thinking. It matters that we pay attention to peacefulness. It matters that we create a calm energy within us because then that is what we emit out into the world. And then that's what gets picked up on in frequencies. So you're contributing. If you're always worrying, you're contributing to frequencies in the world. Now, I don't want you to judge yourself. I just want you to be aware of that. Okay. Because energy travels and a quiet mind isn't boring. It's actually a lot of fun and silly and productive. A quiet mind is productive because it's not tied into busyness. It's not tied into wondering what somebody thinks about you. It's connected to how you think about, how you feel about yourself. Okay. So, mindset is what is the focus, and what we want to create is a supportive, positive, quiet mindset because that will also inspire you to go for that next job, to ask that person out, to travel, to volunteer, to invent something, to shift your career, to delve into your family history, to understand, maybe to take up an instrument as I stare at the guitar that I bought years ago and took some lessons but never got back to someday. So, with a quieter space, you within you, you also will be able to make empowered decisions. Not decisions from a freak out place or decisions from lack, but from a place that truly nurtures who you are and what you would like. So I invite you to commit to that practice of simply being aware of when you are heading into the future, when you're in the past, and bring yourself present by doing a PQ rep. You could join me in the program, have another one starting soon, where you can learn how to do this and also recognize your power to create your life, because the benefits of having a quiet mind is not only lower stress levels, it's manifestation, and it's manifestation without going in circles and working harder at being who you are. We all know that stress creates illness, and chronic stress is just a difficult place to live in. I don't want you to perceive this as, again, being blind to what you're going through or disregarding what you're going through. But no matter what we're facing in life and what we're experiencing, a supportive mindset can help us navigate in a way that is respectful to you, to your journey, and to others. So, when you're willing to pay attention to the automatic thoughts that come up, the judgments that show up, it will give you an indication of what your joy is, what your you can use purpose if you want. I'm not a huge fan of that word because I think it gets loaded in. If you don't know what your purpose is, you're wasting your time here on earth. No, you're not. Stop it. You aren't. Your purpose may be to learn how to love yourself enough that you have a life of ease. Maybe that's your purpose. We all have the same purpose, to get to self acceptance, and we just have different journeys in the way to get there. So, quieting that chatter that's in your brain, yes, it takes effort, but it's also something that when you put in the effort becomes so much easier that it's a lifelong skill set. It's not that you bump into this over and over and over again. And I'm very much a proponent and an encourager in my coaching practice for my clients to not need me anymore because I know when they have their mindset and they have their intuition on board, they don't need Vicky on speed dial anymore. That's when they are completely lined up with them. And that's usually when something grows in their life and they're like, don't go anywhere. And I'm like, I'm here. I'm here, sister. I got you. So I want this for everybody. I wanted to create that ripple effect that I talk about often because it's worth it. So, what are some of the ways that you can do this? Live your life. Just live your life. Go through your everyday experiences and then just have an essence or a part of you that's humorously, not easy to say with this thing, humorously watching over you. Okay, so it's aware of when the chatter starts up and it comes in and it goes, oh, we said we weren't going to do that again. That's all. I know it's a lot. I don't want to minimize that's all, but I'm going to say that's all. And it takes a concerted effort and it's so freaking worth it. So the one small step you could do is maybe saying no to the idea that stress is best and that you won't get anything done. Your judge, your critic in your head is going to tell you that. Well, if I don't have a little bit of stress, I'm never going to get anything done. I get everything done better last minute. No, you're probably addicted to the adrenaline rush of completing last minute. So you've avoided it until that point, and because it's giving you a false sense of being alive. Well, what if you felt alive because you were aware of the messages that were flying around that were getting in the way, telling you to avoid, and you got invested in your life? What if the lit up feeling came from reducing stress and getting involved in a project? What if it led you to some craft you didn't know that you would love? Anybody else kind of freaking out that it's almost holiday time and they haven't started any of the gifts that they usually give people? But that would be living in the future. So in my calmer headspace, I'd do a PQ rep and I would be like, all things in time, Vic, all things in time. So what if you said no to feeling overwhelmed as the motivation for your life? What if you didn't buy into the fact that we are supposed to it's like comparing down, right? Instead of comparing up that my life is amazing. I live in a wonderful place. It's so gorgeous outside my window right now. If my setup didn't require so much movement, I would spin my computer and show you. The colors are amazing. I have the most loving relationship. I have the best friends. I have a volunteer gig that just lights my heart up to no end and allows me to use my brain. And I am in the right direction of getting my autoimmune issues cleared up. And I have a very deep connection with spirit. What if you were listing all those things for yourself and that became your focus? That's what happens when we clear out the clutter, when we clear out the I have to measure down. I have to say how stressed I am, how little sleep I got yesterday, or how much a pain in the you know what my partner is. There's a big encouragement of that out there. And I'm going to ask you to resist the urge to compare down, compare up, mentor up, get excited up. You don't need to compare yourself to someone's life, but what is the frequency of joy that they feel in their life? Mm, line up with that for your own life. So take a small walk, create the habits. Last episode, 2 episodes ago, I can't remember now. was about habit 2 episodes ago. It was about habits. It was about creating those things. You may have gotten into a habit of complaining, of feeling sorry for yourself. Well, you can create a habit of loving your life. Find one small thing every day that you actually genuinely feel good about. To cultivate your intuition, you must also cultivate a supportive and positive mindset. They just work really well together. And I have definitely worked with people on one or the other. Maybe somebody came to me and they're like, nope, I want more of your systems and your understanding of my business and your ability to see into the future. I want more of that than I want of developing my intuition. That's fine. We work on that. We definitely focus on that. And then they start to mentor up with me and realize that their intuition was becoming stronger because they got rid of the mental clutter. Care how you get there. I just want you to have joy. I want you to really love how your life, because what how your life is. Let me finish the sentence. External achievements are wonderful. Success is fabulous. Wealth, I want it for everyone. It does not and cannot compare to the feeling of knowing oneself so well that you don't spend a lot of extra energy on stress or the lower frequency emotions. So creating a mindset intention is important, but it's the everyday work that's going to get you there. I always say to my clients, it's not the coaching that we do one-on-one that opens doors, that opens up hearts, opens up spirit pathways. But I don't follow people around and say, do the work, do the work, do the work. I'm happy when they reflect to me or they reach out between our sessions. But most coaching happens between the sessions. That's where success happens. And the practical application of maybe you're going into a meeting instead of projecting that it's going to be difficult, you take a couple moments, you center in, you connect with a curiosity about this meeting, a wonder, so that it can be wonderful. And you listen to your gut feeling. Is there something going on that, maybe you need to go get the statistics that you forgot you needed for this class, or sorry, this meeting? If you take a breath and you tap into that before you go into meetings, don't wait till your butt gets there. If you forgot, you can go back to what I said earlier. You can use that task, especially for those of us that have 99.999% of our meetings via Zoom or some other format. Just focus on something in the picture. Usually people have books behind them or they have some, just focus on something there for 10 seconds. If you forgot to do it before going into that meeting, that's going to raise your frequency, your energy frequency, and it's going to get your neural pathways to quiet the negative Nelly side or the negative Ned side, and it's going to turn on the positive, the uplifting, the supportive side of your right brain. I've often said there's no magic wand. There is not, but you can get excited about this stuff working because it does work. It just absolutely does. Listening more closely to your intuition will also dissipate some of that chatter, because the challenging thing with intuition is you don't have proof until the thing happens. You don't. You can feel it, you can have a knowing, you can have, like, my movie screen, I'll actually see it play out. None of that is true until it actually happens. So when you learn to listen to intuition and you learn to trust it, you buy a byproduct of that is having a positive, optimistic mindset, because you just learn to throw it out there and trust that it's going to be okay. Now, your left brain helps in that you collect the data. That thing that I had an intuitive hit on actually did happen. And now I have proof. Cool. And now both your sides of your brain can work together. It does take cultivating, reframing. I'm okay with that as long as you're not lying to yourself. Gratitude practice, and then support yourself by surrounding yourself with like-minded people. When I do the 6-week course, we get what we call a pod, and that's a private pod. And this course is only open to 10 people in that pod. That's it. There's no more. It's not this Zoom screen of hundreds of people and you're just lost in the crowd. There's 10 people that are there. And I do that purposefully because in previous pods, people have gone on to support each other and maybe they've gotten together or friendships have developed. And I think and love that, to be a part of that, because they're surrounding themselves. You may come in not knowing each other, but then you end up being in with like-minded individuals and we mirror neuron. And then you start to attract those people in other areas of your life because you set a bar of who you are, how you are, and who you want to be surrounded by. So success becomes sustainable and joyful when it is built in the foundation of intuitive alignment and mental resilience, mental fitness, which is what this is. Think of each time you catch that thought process that's not supportive and you go, hang on, I know I can change my neural pathways. Vicky says it works. Let me just trust this for a moment. And then you do that, you're building up your biceps. You're building up that mental capacity and that fitness, which is different than mental health. Mental health is biochemical. Sure, you might need some help. That's fabulous. But mental fitness will be what helps you call that person, right? To get the prescription that helps you. They're two different things, but they kind of meet up. That's another podcast too. Boy, we're just lining up different topics, aren't we? So the joyful life, I believe, comes from embracing both what seem to be the ups and the downs with a mindset that sees opportunity for growth, for evolution. When my late husband was passing, I chose to go through that with this mindset that I have, that everything is a gift. And it was a gift that I didn't necessarily want to open. And sometimes it's a gift that I don't want sitting on my shelf, but it's there and it still sits in my heart. And it's challenging, very challenging some days. But having the mindset that I've cultivated for myself because the stress mindset was not serving myself or anyone else, it allows me to honor his process, where I am in life, be in a loving relationship, and know that it is actually all for my soul's growth too. And that can be difficult sometimes, to think of our soul's growth as the reason we're doing this, because it's difficult to wrap your hands around. So when you merge it with what's showing up in the physical, you get the validation and the celebration, I hope, of a joyful life. So I would love for you to simply start considering that you have all this amazingness in you. You have your intuition that came in because you're a soul and you were brave enough to be human. You have a physical brain that is amazing and wonderful. And yeah, sometimes forgets where you put things, but that's part of the fun too. You get to go on a treasure hunt in your own house. That's how I think of it. The things I've found looking for something else in this house. It is a practice. It's not something that you do and forget. How many programs have you signed up for? How many have you downloaded? How many meditation apps and everything have you said you were going to do and then didn't follow through? Why? Because they promised immediate results and there's no freaking such thing. There isn't. but there is immediate gratification once you start building these neural pathways and you catch yourself and you're aware and you don't judge. You catch yourself and it's like, ooh, I got that one. That's so exciting. Lifelong. What as long as you have a brain, you are going to have some doubt about yourself, judge yourself in some way. But it can be a touchstone. Touchstone? Touchstone. Enunciation. I feel like I'm going back to singing lessons where we had to enunciate. It could be just you touch it quickly and you realize, nope, that doesn't work for me. No, I promised myself I wouldn't judge myself, and you shift it. All right. It's a practice, it's lifelong. I I wouldn't lie to you. There's nothing that's going to be magic, but it becomes magical by doing the work. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being brave enough to even consider looking at how you're judging yourself or what that left brain may be saying, and consider clearing the junk in the attic. I was just in my attic today getting past tax filings and stuff. So I know what it looks like to go into a human attic in your head and then your actual attic. But you can clear that space. You can have a quiet mind that then thinks of possibilities and thinks of things that it would like to try, that it would like to do, and has such an acceptance. Someone said to me the other day, it was the sweetest thing. She said, who is this person that I've become? And there was such love in her voice that I almost melted on the call in the joy of her experiencing that. I want that for everybody. I want that for you. So maybe you'll consider taking the program. Maybe you'll listen to this podcast as we talk about it a little bit more. And maybe you'll consider being kind to yourself because you deserve that. So I'll see you in the next episode. Good. Thank you for listening to this episode of Intuition, Your Success Compass. I appreciate you being here. If you would like more information about developing your intuitive skills, removing those blocks, and creating the life that feels the most successful to you, then head on over to vickibaird.com. That's VICKIBAIRD.com. And check out the courses, the groups, and the Spaces app that will allow you to be part of our community and know about upcoming events and specials. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.